You've seen Aristocrat decks before, but what if sacrificing tokens turned every instant and sorcery into a 2-for-1? That's exactly what Silverquill the Disputant does best. And once the tokens start sacking, the spells start stacking. Hi everyone, I'm Full Harmonicon and welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy synergy-focused commander breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe. There's a lot more on the way. Today we're diving into a really unique take on Aristocrats. Instead of just draining opponents slowly over time, we're combining Aristocrats with Spellslinger. We're sacrificing creatures to copy spells, and at the center of it all is Silverquill the Disputant. So if you enjoy sacking your own creatures, copying a bunch of spells, and squeezing ridiculous value out of what look like fair cards, this deck is going to feel very satisfying. Silverquill is a 4/4 Elder Dragon with Flying and Vigilance for 4 mana. That's not why we're here. It's all about their cracked ability. Each instant and sorcery spell you cast has Causality 1, which means as you cast that spell, you can sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater, and when you do, you copy that spell. So, as long as we have a 1/1 token lying around, every spell we cast can effectively become 2. And this entire deck is built to take full advantage of that. Aristocrat decks are built around 3 core pillars. 1. Sacrifice Fodder. These are creatures that want to die for the cause. 2. Sacrifice Outlets. We want those creatures to leave the battlefield on our terms. And 3. Drain Effects. The win cons that punish your opponents for every death. But what makes this deck interesting is that Silverquill doesn't cleanly fit into just one of those roles. Instead, it sort of bridges everything. It turns your sacrifice fodder into card draw, removal, or token generation by copying spells. It's not just about draining anymore, it's about multiplying our resources. So let's start with the first pillar, sacrifice fodder. In this deck, that mostly means tokens, and a lot of them. Cards like Sedgemoor Witch and Monastery Mentor are perfect here. They don't just make tokens, they reward us for doing what we already want to do, casting and copying spells. Every spell becomes more bodies, and those bodies become more spells. Then, we've got early game token makers like Raise the Alarm, Shadow Summoning, and Servo Exhibition. These help us set up early, and later on, copying them gives us even more value. Things get really interesting in the late game. Cards like Secure the Wastes, Grand Crescendo, and Finale of Glory scale incredibly well. When that X gets big and you copy these, you're not just building a board, you're threatening to end the game outright. Inkshield is another standout. It's mostly a defensive play, but it can completely flip the game by exploding your board with tokens. Call the Copper Coats scales with our opponent's creatures, and copying this can create an absurd number of creatures out of nowhere. One of the wildest interactions is Afterlife Insurance. If you copy it, you can resolve the first one, give all your creatures Afterlife, then sacrifice everything. You get a wave of 1/1s, and then you resolve the copy to do it all again. Yes, please. Mughals Valor is another big multiplier. It doubles your creatures, and if copied, you're effectively quadrupling your board. And of course, value staples like Lingering Souls and Shram's Expertise keeps things flowing, especially Expertise, making tokens and cheating out spells. That's twice if copied. Next up, Sacrifice Outlets. We want control over when our creatures die. Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar are the classics, turning creatures into mana. Then we've got low-cost options like Carrion Feeder and Viscera Seer, with Seer giving you extra scry value. Bartholomew del Presidio grows as you sacrifice, turning your engine into another threat. Woe Strider gives you a token on entry and repeated scrying when sacrificing, which is exactly what this deck wants. Spawning Pit is great insurance. It lets you bank value in the face of a board wipe, and then lets you rebuild later. Now, onto the win condition, the drain effects. This is how we close out the game. Cards like Zulaport Cutthroat, Cruel Celebrant, and Illis Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim, drain each opponent whenever creatures die. Bastion of Remembrance, and Marionette Apprentice both bring tokens on ETB and damage every time we sack a creature. Vindictive Vampire adds redundancy, and Blood Artist lets you pick off opponents more selectively. Then, Syr Konrad the Grim, which hits everyone whenever a creature leaves the battlefield or hits the graveyard, from anywhere. Mirkwood Bats, which is a bit different, triggers when we make tokens and when we sacrifice them, so it's working on both sides of the engine. For card draw, we're leaning into spells that either sacrifice creatures or spells we can copy, or both. Ice Whisper and Sign in Blood become incredibly efficient. With Silverquill, they turn into sack a token, draw 4 cards. That's huge. Village Rites and Corrupted Conviction are 1 mana, sack a creature, draw 2. Perfect for copying, though we'll need multiple bodies to maximize their effects. Then we've got Deadly Dispute, Eviscerator's Insight, and Reckoner's Bargain, which gives similar value at 2 mana, each with its own upsides. Skullclamp is just ridiculous, repeatable draw whenever the equipped creature dies. Morbid Opportunist keeps things flowing passively. And Liliana, Dreadhorde General, ties everything together. Card draw, token generation, sacrifice pressure, and a game-ending ultimate if left unchecked. For interaction, most of our removal comes in the form of instants and sorceries. Every removal spell becomes a 2-for-1. Will of the Mardu is especially strong here, creating tokens and dealing scaling damage based on your board. When copied, it gets crazy. Kaya's Guile offers flexibility, Graveyard Hate, forcing opponents to sacrifice, or making tokens. Tragic Slip handles big threats easily when you're already sacrificing creatures. Blot Out the Sky can both wipe the board and build your board. The Meat Hook Massacre isn't a spell we can copy, but it's both a board wipe and a drain engine. Then there's your staples: Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Despark, Anguished Unmaking, Generous Gift, and Stroke of Midnight all become significantly stronger when copied. For ramp, we've got some explosive options. Dark Ritual turns into 6 mana with a sacrifice. Culling the Weak can make 8. Cabal Ritual can push that even further by making 10. Pitiless Plunderer gives you treasures whenever creatures die, which is constantly. And then of course, your staples like Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, and Talisman of Hierarchy round things out. Finally, the lands that push the plan forward. Fountain Port does everything: card draw, tokens, and treasures. Castle Ardenvale, Realm of Ko, and Myrix give you repeatable token generation. Midgar, City of Mako, is basically a Deadly Dispute stapled onto a land. And Phyrexian Tower turns creatures into mana, which fits perfectly here. Silverquill is a really unique blend of Aristocrats and Spellslinger. While the deck functions without our commander, once Silverquill hits the battlefield, everything starts to snowball. You're not just casting spells anymore, you're turning every single one into double value, all while draining your opponents out of the game. And that's what makes this deck so much fun. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more synergy-based Commander content. If you'd like to support the channel further and help vote on future videos, memberships are available. And hey, if you're picking up any of these cards, consider using my TCG Player affiliate link down below. And until next time, may all your instants and sorceries be copied.